for me, the cars are all about that visceral feeling, that reaction. And if I buy anything that doesn't produce that, I have instant regret. I could spend $20,000 on a car and regret it immediately, and spend $500,000 on a car and get tremendous joy out of it. And then what happens is there's some point where I know I'm going to start losing money, and I have to. Once that hits, I sell the car instantly.
You've bought the new cars that come out, and you flip them and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about your history with that stuff and your relationship with them, and how you guys handle buying and selling your vehicles? Because that's a perspective that people like Seth and I don't particularly have. We buy the cars we can afford and then keep them as long as we can, and then you guys handle it a little bit differently. It's a little bit of a business with you, right?
It's unhealthy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Daniel and I have unhealthy relationships with cars.
Is that true?
Yeah.
How so?
So I think it's a mistake for anybody. So let's say you wanted to get in the watch business, like you wanted to start flipping watches, Rolexes.
Yeah.
You know, you want to start flipping exotic cars. I think getting into that business to make money when you don't already have money is a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So like when I approach a vehicle, and I'll tell you, I have a problem. So I do very well, relatively. It depends on who I'm talking to, but I do very well financially. But I still struggle because the cars are so expensive that I have to treat it like an investment. If not, I'll lose sleep.
Yeah.
Right. I cannot just watch, a $500,000 car. I can't just drive it till the wheels fall off. I can't treat it like let's say the average American's buying a $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000 car, $50,000, whatever it is, and they're going to drive it for 20 years and drive it to zero.
Right.
I don't have it in me to spend $500,000 on a car and drive it until it's worth nothing.
No.
I just don't have it in me, because I'm literally so for me, and that price point, I treat it like an investment. So, and that's where the unhealthy relationship. I'm not actually able to just, I drive it, I daily drive them, and I put a lot of miles on them very fast, but I also sell them. So, I've got a good relationship. We look at what the market's doing. First of all, you got to be able to get slots. You got to be able to so even go to GM, go to Ford, go to these, and go try to buy a brand new vehicle that's in demand. I'm not talking about the vehicle that's all over their lot that's full, that every dealer has. I'm talking about the vehicle that everybody wants and nobody can get, right? Like go buy a new Corvette. Go order the Z06 is coming out. Good luck.
Yes, impossible.
Right? So you got to know somebody, right? You have to have a history with that dealership, a history with the owner of the dealership. You can't just break into the car market, because there's too many people like me that get six slots a year already, right? Like
so when you say slots,
so you have the right to purchase a vehicle.
Gotcha.
So like for
They're
instance,
like pre-ordered vehicles
on a limited run of a vehicle.
Yeah, limited run. So
Yeah.
like if you wanted to buy the Ferrari's SUV, they sold out literally the minute they said go, they sold every single order.
Well, also with Ferrari,
Because
though,
there
you
are
have to be
people-
on a 2-year waiting list to
two-year
even
waiting
buy a Ferrari.
That's what I'm saying. There's people like me that were lined up. The people off the street that have never bought a Ferrari didn't get an opportunity.
And so that's where the opportunity comes in, right? Is when you have those slots, you have the vehicle, you run it up to whatever mileage is, you're watching the market, and then you're
it's a limited
reselling
supply.
the car. Because
so you're buying something that's of limited supply.
Well,
right?
I think with Ferrari too, I think you have to own a used Ferrari first, and then you can get on a 2-year list.
Ferrari's a little different, right?
Yeah,
But
it's a more exclusive club there.
Yeah, so let's say you're looking at Lamborghini though, right? There are other certain cars, Porsche, like for instance that GT3 that's sitting outside that Tanner's driving today, courtesy of HBI Auto. Maybe we can give a link to HBI here, and Tanner. So Tanner is driving a GT3, a 2020 GT3, and I think MSRP on that vehicle, it's cherry red, was $165,000 in 2020. Okay, so if you would have had a slot, what that slot would have most likely meant was that you have an opportunity to pay full retail price for a Porsche, right, for a GT3. And the benefit is that because there's such a limited run, that car is still selling for 195, 200,000 miles. It's a 2020 with, 20,000 miles on it. And it's still selling for maybe $40K over MSRP.
Yeah.
So
which I think that's starting to settle out.
It's softening a little bit. But it's not like typical cars. Go look up a Honda Civic. Go look up a Honda Accord. Go look up a Toyota. Go pick any car, right? And, you got to throw the last 12 months out a little bit because, the used market has remained very strong because of limited new supply. But if you go back historically, you look at any car, you buy it, you drive it off the lot, it loses money. right? You drive it for 2 years, you've lost 50% of your money, right? So if you buy something that's in short supply, limited supply, you don't have that huge fall off. The problem is there's a massive cost to entry. There's a massive barrier to entry, and it is cost.
Yeah.
So you want to buy a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or this or that, and you can pay MSRP. There's such a limited supply, and so many people are forced into the used market. Phone's ringing here. So many people are forced into the used market that that those cars really hold their value really well. Also, most of these exotic companies make you sign agreements with them that you won't sell within a certain period of time. Like Ford GT did it, and they did have some lawsuits over the way theirs was structured. But you know, there's an honor system, right? With myself and Lamborghini, I may have signed something at one point, but I'm a belly-to-belly, face-to-face guy. Like if I tell you, hey, I'm going to hold it for X, and then when I go to sell it, I'm going to bring it back to your dealer and let you sell it, then that's what I do, if that's what I agree to do. Some people do that through a mechanism, through a contract. I've got the relationship where they know that I do what I say I'm going to do, and we just roll with it. I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
I think with the car thing being a problem, you know, people that really like cars like us, you know, if someone revs up a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something, I get excited. If I had a tail, it would wag.
Yeah,
and I have to be careful not to buy that car.
I agree with that.
You know, so that's where I've gotten a lot better with that as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
So I'm in a good place now where I'm pretty healthy with vehicles.
What was the
he does have a Porsche SUV outside. I mean,
what was the?
But I've had it for a year.
Yeah, that's true.
You did try to get rid of it, I think.
It's a multi six-figure Porsche there, but yeah, I got you.
Historically, in your younger days, what was the most impulsive vehicle decision that you've ever made?
You got some. This dude still had multiple sets of Lamborghini rims in the back here until here recently.
Something like that, yeah. Just buying too many sports cars.
Yeah.
But I've just stopped.
Yeah.
And especially now, like I don't even want to buy them right now because the prices are so crazy and the market's so volatile. Plus, I'm real busy right now. I usually only buy cars when I'm not super busy.
Yeah. It's to get you a little bit of the rush that you get from other places in your business life, maybe.
Yeah.
So I guess a better way to phrase this though is if you're out there and you're looking at buying a vehicle, whatever the vehicle is, exotic or not, if it's a Honda Civic, it doesn't matter. I would first define what's the purpose of buying the vehicle. If you're trying to buy the vehicle as a business, as an investment, you need to go, and that's the business you want to get in. You need to go. It's like a 2-day class in North Carolina, I'm pretty sure, unless they've changed it. You need to go get a dealer's license, right? You need to go get educated, right? And you need to be able to buy vehicles at wholesale. Right, and you can go to other dealers and you can buy inventory that's been sitting on their lots that's not moving, and they go wholesale those things at auctions all the time. And there are wholesalers that will sell you cars for $500 more than they got in them because they're trying to turn 10 cars in a day. Right, they'll go to auction, they'll pick up 10 cars. Their goal is to make $500 a car. They can make a cool $5,000. That's another thing that you can get into if you've got the money to get into it. Like you want to get in the car business. To make money, I think you've got to start. You got to start researching. You got to dive into it. You need a dealer's license because if not, you're gonna get killed on taxes. Because you have to pay tax every time you buy a vehicle, basically. Versus you leave it on a dealer plate and you're gonna essentially pay tax one time versus potentially 2 times if you're doing it as an individual. So I think that's a big step. But I think a more healthy way to look at it, if you're just an individual out there trying to get a good deal. I think what you've got to do is just make a decision on how long you own the vehicle, and then I like to buy things. I would think from that perspective, buy something that's already depreciated. You know, like there's not a whole lot of cars that first 50% may go in 2 years. It may take it another 6 years to drop another 50%. You know, so if you can find something that's been really well taken care of and do your research, find something that's been garage kept, female driven, possibly no kids, no animals, non-smoker, like. Find the limit, find the needle in a haystack that was well taken care of and that has great service records and, maybe accident free and look, take time and look. And maybe even that's not the cheapest car. Maybe it's a hair more expensive, but you're going to get long-term use out of it and a better likelihood of that. I think if you're thinking about a car from that perspective, does it get you to A to B? Does it accomplish the objective? Are you going to drive it for 10 years and drive the wheels off of it? Like, look to solve that problem. For me, the cars are all about that visceral feeling, that reaction. And if I buy anything that doesn't produce that, I have instant regret. I could spend $20,000 on a car and regret it immediately, and spend $500,000 on a car and get tremendous joy out of it. And then what happens is there's some point where I know I'm going to start losing money, and I have to. Once that hits, I sell the car instantly.
Does that translate to business as well? If you're starting a new business, and doors open or whatever it is, and you don't have that feeling right away. Is it similar to a vehicle?
Before we answer that question, there's a thing about these types of cars too. These exotic cars where they're like art. Mm-hmm. The engineering and stuff that goes into these vehicles, they're so incredible. Like the fit and finish and everything is unbelievable, and the way they perform, it's just they're really special machines. I don't like where the pricing has gone on them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The prices have gone up in the past decade.
Why is that?
40% at least, maybe more.
Is it demand?
No, I don't know what it is, and it goes back to it's all prices though. It's not just cars. It's real estate. It's affordable cars are what, $30,000 now.
I think it's a lot of things.
There's no bottom up regulation. Is there a way to create a society where the pricing doesn't change? Where the cost of you regulate the cost of the raw goods and the raw materials.
So Japan had that happen, and their stock market stayed stagnant for 25, 30 years, and they look at that like it was a tremendously negative thing.
But stagnant's not necessarily bad as long as everyone's doing well, right?
Yeah, but I encourage you, check it out and look and see, and every other world economy looks at that and goes, that's what we don't want to have happen. But that's kind of exactly what happened there. But I agree. I think there's a lot of things that domino into it. I think it's this thing of, I'm an employee and I need to make more money, and so I'm going to ask for more money. And the employer says, you know what, I value your services. I don't want you to leave. I'm going to pay you more money, or my competition's going to, right? Well, now that my expenses have gone up, now I've got to raise my prices. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Now, I think as an owner, I go, hey, my employees are making more money. If I don't raise my pay, some of my employees are going to be making more money than I'm making, right? So I want to make more money. I got to raise my price. I think the other side of this is we have had historically low interest rates for the last decade.
Yeah.
And historically low interest rates for people that finance their lives equals I can buy a whole lot more shit for the same money.
Yeah.
Right? You're starting to see the adverse of that now. As interest rates are going up, the cost to live is going way up, right? The cost to own a mortgage has went up by the same house is 40% more expensive to the guy that's financing it than it was just a few months ago, right? So now you're starting to see interest rates work the adverse. So now I think that happened to cars. People were financing cars for 7, 8, 9 years. Some of the cars for 10, 12, 15 years. Same thing with boats and airplanes. I mean, like, you get these historically low interest rates, and they're stretching out this financing, and then car dealers are like, hey, it's an opportunity for us to we've got this. We can raise the price on these vehicles because people are making decisions based on what they can afford monthly.
And also the people selling the raw materials and the parts to create these cars, they see them raise their prices like, oh, we're selling the parts too cheap because now you've got these. Your margin is huge, so we're going to raise our prices.
I think it's the whole. It's this domino effect of everybody needs more money, and that's fine. But then the net effect, and we talked about this a lot last year, and we talked about that it would lead to inflation, and if you raise the number one expense that I have as an employer is my employees, and I'm not saying I don't value them. They're awesome. They're all the ones that aren't awesome don't stay around very long, and we've got some really, really amazing people, but they're still my biggest expense, right? Yeah. And so, if my expense goes up, I've got to figure out a way. They still got to get paid.
Yeah,
I have to raise my price, right? Like so we had people on the podcast that disagreed with us, and
well, it's just the way it works.
It just is how it is.
Yeah, that's why
I think one of them gave the example of McDonald's because of McDonald's scale, and then my point is that we're not all McDonald's, right? And actually, most of the companies that employ people in the United States are not McDonald's size.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why I think that issue is a societal issue. That's something we all need to decide together, and it doesn't need to come from the companies. It needs to come from the society itself as a tax thing. Yeah. And then the bigger companies, the large corporations, would handle the brunt of that expense.
So I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm just curious. If everybody had a Lamborghini, you go, well, if everybody had a Lamborghini, would you still want yours? And my answer would be, I don't give a shit if anybody else has a Lamborghini. I buy that vehicle, the specific ones that I buy, based on my appreciation for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, like, I don't care that it's scarce. I'm not buying it because it's scarce. I'm only treating it as an investment because I'm cursed to always worry about money, right? I've always, every decision of my life, I have to relate that to how it affects me long term and my long term vision, my long term plans for wealth. And the car is so expensive that I have to treat it that way. If the car was $50,000, if I could buy that exact same car for $50,000, I wouldn't think twice about it.
No, take it to the track every weekend.
Yeah, I'd probably own multiples, and I wouldn't care. I'd put 100. I'd drive them till the wheels fell off of it, right?
Yeah.
And really, really wealthy people would say, well, maybe you're just not wealthy enough yet, right? The other side is that $500,000 is $500,000. I don't care if I'm worth $100 million or $1 billion. It's hard to take a piss on $500,000, right?
Yeah.
Excuse my, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? We're not, So, you go back a decade and the hypercars, you could pick up hypercars for $1 million. Now there's, I can name a dozen exotics that cost you $1 million.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, like you're saying, but whose fault is it? I don't know. It's not one thing. I think it's just a culmination of a lot of things. What'll be interesting to see is, will prices fall any?
I guess they'll have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because there's a point where people just stop buying stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it's absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm. That's gonna be the
like houses.
Yeah.
People. I mean, the rents have gone up so much on houses. It's hard for people to rent now.
So if I have to delete this, meet Kevin, I'll delete this. But I think I'm allowed to talk about it now. But I put money with House Hack. I'm one of the founding members of House Hack. With Meet Kevin on YouTube. He doesn't need me to give him a shout out, but last time I checked, is over 1 million followers, and I've been watching him since he was much, much smaller. I think 5-6 years.
Is he the guy you got that book from, or you gave that book to?
Yes. Yeah. Long time.
You got the book from him, right?
Yeah. Well, and I gave him some feedback on one of his very first when he launched his course. I was one of his first members.
Oh,
to
that's
join.
right. Yeah. I remember that.
So anyway, founding member of House Hack, and I did a Series A fund for initial funding. And for anybody that's out there that's interested, I encourage you to go look. There's still time if you wanted to get in. And he's doing something very unique. He's letting people in at the same valuation he's in at. So dollar for dollar. So his valuation, whether if he put in $10 million and you were to put in $1 million, I mean, you would have the exact same, or even $100,000, exact same valuation. Now, at this point, you got to be an accredited investor. You need to go on and look up what that means. So there, it's not open to everyone just yet, but I do know he's talking about putting it open to everyone. But anyway, so I don't know how I got there, but what were we talking about that got me to House Hack?
Pricing.
Oh, pricing.
Yeah.
So we were talking about
And
Kevin,
we're at 5 o'clock, just so you guys know.
Kevin's done a really good job, and some things he's been off on, and he's putting it out for millions of people every single day. He's putting out tons of content. You're not going to be right on everything, but if you look, I mean, he's right more than he's wrong, which I like.
Yeah.
And he started talking about housing, how he felt and what was going on and where he thinks it's going. And if you look, I think it ties right in. He's building up this fund because he's going to go shopping for basically single-family homes, and he feels like, he's parking the money and he's sitting waiting for the right opportunity. He feels like there's a real opportunity and things are going to be on sale over the next, say, 6 to 12 months in the coming years. And so you could subscribe to that and say, yeah, everything's going to have to go on sale, right? Everything's going to have to be at a discounted price. But then to play devil's advocate, I would say, well, if 2 years ago a house was $2 million and today it's $6 million, and it's sold for $5 million, and you go, well, that's a deal. 2 years ago it was $2 million, right? So I don't know that everything's fallen back to where it was. I just think that there's some softening of some of this massive inflation that's going to take place. But how far does it retract? I don't know.
And that $2 million a few years ago is probably worth.
Well, the buying power, if you think about it, like if you had $2 million today, that's the whole point, is it doesn't buy what it used to buy.
No, yeah.
That's what inflation, if we think about it, that's what it is.
Well, that's why you have to put the money into something.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just hold on to, if you don't, have a small savings, but invest your money, because money is designed to depreciate.
We talked about this for the last couple of years on this, I think for 2 years on this podcast. We talked about real estate being a hedge against inflation. And I've been dumping millions and millions and millions of dollars into real estate, and I got paid for it. I've done very, very, very well.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it, right? We've been talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we knew. I didn't know how. I didn't know what the catalyst was going to be. We just had a good inclination that we thought inflation was coming. We knew that we were going to be investing in things that were hedges against inflation. Real estate being one of them.
Yep.
and I've been paid along with a lot of other people. Right? It didn't take
Yeah.
somebody that was necessarily really smart. It just, you know, you just
see it coming.
You just see it coming, right? So
Yeah.
I think, you know, so what happens? I don't know. I have a hard time buying that it falls back to where it was.
You can't. Yeah.
But I do think, you know, if
it does, then something really bad happened.
yeah, but if it falls 10 or 15% or 20% and people think that's a good deal, great.
Yeah.
And then we'll start the new real estate cycle back over. That's fine. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's a good stopping point. I got to get you guys out of here. I'm trying to be
Yeah, I
respectful of
appreciate
your
that.
time.
Appreciate
It's 5
that.
o'clock. Go check out all the old episodes where they talk about all this shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Look at some of our pre-COVID stuff, early
Yeah,
COVID
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
like the first episoeds. We do. I think we.
I may have to go back and watch
predicted
some
a
of
lot of
these.
this stuff was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. I may go back. I'm wondering how shit I was. We gotta go back
See
and
what-
look.
They're not good, but there's some good information.
yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
Bye, guys.